Okay. Okay, we're gonna do a couple more complete the square problems. Two of them. Two problems. We're gonna do them at the same time. So if you want to take notes, you can. If you don't want to take notes, it's fine. I would recommend that you do. Just because it's nice to have notes.
Oh my gosh. I finally got big one. Wait, no, he's kidding. I don't know which one to use. Mine's better. Mine's larger.
Okay, so if you're going to, now we're not doing vertex form, we're actually going to solve. So when I say solve, we're solving for x. Okay? So we're going to think back to like what we did a couple days ago. So the first thing you would do is you would make it, instead of equal to y, you would set it equal to 0, right? So I do that first. So I'm going to do both at the same time. Okay, then what did we do after that? Add what? Add or subtract? C. Okay, so you have to move C. So in this problem, what would we do to move C?
Add 4.
Add 4. What would we do in the other problem?
Subtract.
Subtract C. Okay, is everybody good so far? Anybody want to volunteer what we do next? Divide by 3. So what's their 3? What letter is that? A. So we divide by A. So I'm going to divide everything by this one, leave everything by 3. So I have x squared plus 5 over 3x plus 4 over 3. And so now I would divide by A. I have x squared plus b over ax equals negative c over a. Okay, what's our next step? Close. We actually have to complete the square now, right? So this is where we put in our blanks. Before we can factor, we got to figure out what the numbers are. So we put a blank. Now, since you're doing solving, that's where we do one on each side. So we add on the left, and we add on the right. So this one we do the same thing. So how do we find that number that goes in the blank?
B over 2 squared.
B over 2 squared. So what's your B, Caden?
5/3.
Okay, what's your B in the other one?
B over A.
B over A. Okay, so I would take, so if I take 5 over 3 divided by 2, well, a fraction divided, same thing as multiplying by the reciprocal, right? So this would be 5 over 3 times a half. Well, 5 over 3 times a half would be 5/6. So what's 5/6 squared?
25/36.
25/36. Okay, that gets added to both sides. So that's the number that goes in your blank. Okay, now we're going to do the same thing over here. Just that it has variables. It's the same process. Okay. So if I did b over a divided by 2, well, that's the same thing as multiplying by a half. So b over a times a half is b over 2a. Okay, then I'm going to square it. So what's b times b?
2b.
B squared. Okay, what's 2 times 2? And what's a times a? Okay, so this would be plus u. B squared over 4a squared. Alright, what do we do now? Now we can do what? Factor. Now we can break it down, right? So the left-hand side, that's when you're going to have your parentheses squared. The right-hand side, you're going to add it together. Everybody good so far? Okay, so on the left-hand side, on this first one, remember your b over 2 is what goes in parentheses. So that's your 5 over 6. So this would be x plus 5 over 6 squared equals. Okay, now I know most of you are probably just going to go to your calculator and add these two together. But if you did it by hand, if you want to add two fractions, what do they have to have? Common denominator. So we're going to do it by hand because over here we have variables. We're going to do those, use calculator on those. Okay? So 3 and 36, common would be 36. So I need to multiply the left-hand one by 12. And remember, when you're finding common denominators, you multiply top and bottom by that number. So this is really going to be 48 over 36, good, plus 25 over 36. Good, 73 over 36. And you do not, you guys need to get in the habit, I noticed this when I was grading your homework, and some of you I put it on there and some of you I didn't. Don't use mixed numbers when you're going to be doing square roots. Can't take square root of a mixed number. So everything, make it an improper fraction. So even though I know that this is really 2 and 1/36, leave it like this when you're doing square roots. Because with improper, you do square root of the top and then the square root of the bottom. Okay? Okay, so this one's done for now. But now we gotta do that to this one. So if I factor the left-hand side, what would go in my parentheses? I think you said x plus b over 2a? I couldn't hear the end of it. I heard x plus. Okay, now the right-hand side, you have to get a common denominator. So the left one has an a, the right one has a 4a squared. So they share an a, but this one needs a 4 and it also needs another a in order for it to be the same. So I would have to multiply this left one by 4a. Okay. So this would give me negative 4ac over 4a squared. And I have plus b squared over 4a squared. So this would be negative 4ac plus b squared over 4a squared. Does anybody see where this is going? Yeah?
Quadratic.
It'll be the quadratic formula when we're done. So the quadratic formula is solving for x by completing the square. So what they did is they came up, because do you guys like completing the square? Because I don't really enjoy it. I like to factor in quadratic formula. Those are like my two favorites. So what they did was they were coming up with the thing, they solved this equation for x, and then we came with a quadratic formula, so you didn't have to do all this work every single time to solve for x, if it didn't factor. Okay? Alright, so we got them to parentheses squared. So now what do we do? Square root. So we square root both sides. So we got to get x by itself. So on the left-hand side, this would become x plus 5/6. On the right-hand side, I would have plus or minus. Hey, 73 isn't perfect, doesn't break down, so it would stay 70, square root of 73. But what about the square root of 36? 6. Okay, we would do the same thing on this other equation. So I would do the square root of both sides. So this would be x plus b over 2a equals plus or minus. Okay, at the top, can't simplify. So it'd be negative 4ac plus b squared over. Okay, what's the square root of 4?
2.
What's the square root of a squared? Does anyone else think this is cool, or is it just me? Who likes math? You think this is cool? I think it's kind of cool.
So cool.
Okay, then how would I solve for x? It is so cool. Stalker.
That's what I said.
What would I do?
Subtract.
Subtract 5, 6.
That's what I said.
You said it in a smart aleck attitude.
I just said that right.
Uh-huh. Okay, so then I would have negative 5 over 6 plus or minus square root of 73 over 6. Okay, so couldn't I make that just one fraction? Because they have the same denominator? So negative 5 plus or minus the square root of 73 over 6. Now, do you have to make it one denominator? No. Okay, I'm okay if you don't. But if they have the same, it looks cleaner. Okay, so what would I do with my other equation? What would I do to get x by itself? Subtract b over 2a. And then I have x equals negative b over 2a plus or minus. Now, same thing, since those both have the same denominator, we can write it together. So, now what's the only difference between what I have up here and the quadratic formula? Besides x equals, what's the only difference?
Negative b over 2.
Okay, see, you can switch those. Those are inside the square root. You can switch the order. So that is the exact same thing as this. That is the solution to x, which is also your quadratic formula. Okay, so let's try to prove that we got this right by completing the square by doing the quadratic formula. Okay? So if I go back to the beginning, so we're going to try to prove that that we did everything correct. So what's my a in this problem? 3. What's my b?
5.
And what's my c? Okay? So I need the opposite of b. So my b is 5, so I would have negative 5. Plus or minus the square root. B squared, so 5 squared, minus 4ac, so 4 times 3 times negative 4, and that's all over 2a, so 2 times 3. Bless you. Okay, so if I simplify, bless you. If I simplify, are you like allergic to me or my class? You guys are like sneezing like crazy in here. Okay, so if I simplify what's inside the square root, what is 5 squared? 25. Okay, then this would be like minus a negative, so it's going to turn into a plus. And 4 times 3 times 4 would be 48. So what's 25 plus 48? 73. So now I have negative 5 plus or minus the square root of 73 over, what's 2 times 3?
6.
Did I get the same thing? Yeah. Quadratic formula is just a lot shorter than completing the square. You guys didn't think that was as cool as I did. Disappointed. Meg?